in Ben Hippen. Ben, we recently reviewed your music, and we've been helping you promote your music over the past year or so. And you're pretty unique in the sense that you pretty much are just like a piano dude. We couldn't really call you rock. We can't call you jazz. We can't call you alternative. You're like new age piano, jazzy piano kind of stuff. So this is where I normally give the featured artist a chance to sort of let us know who you are and what you're doing, and then we're going to take a listen to your song "Tiger Dies Alone," and then we'll come back and get deeper with Dave. So, who are you and what are you doing here?
That's a great question. So I'd say I'm probably somewhere between a composer and a songwriter. I have a background in writing a lot of instrumental music. I also write songs with vocals. And actually, I'm putting an act together soon that will be doing regular songs, but I'm somewhere in the middle there. And there isn't really a particular genre that I identify with. I really, everyone says that, and that may be important to people or not important to people, but to me, it's really important to sort of like really find my own path.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So Tiger Dies Alone, we'll take a listen to it. Dave will probably get a little deeper with it, and I got some heartburn as usual. So Rob, hit it.
Deeper with Dave, deeper with Dave. Oh, yeah.
Sponsored by...
Ben, I'm glad you showed up just in time, man. I was looking forward to this chat. Did some Googling of your visage and other body parts and found some interesting... Interesting. I mean, like hands on the keys. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, some interesting articles, and I listened to a lot of your music, man. It was really impressive, like smooth but sharp, and just really technically sound, and really enjoyed it, man. So I want to break it down. How you doing tonight, man?
Really, really well. Thanks. It's good to be here.
Awesome, man. So I always like to go back, as far as possible. And by the way, I started playing piano when I was about 5 years old. Joe, when he was young, and Joe's a music teacher as well. Chris Swan teaches piano. 4 piano players, all right here. And
amazing.
Yeah, so let's kind of. Rob has seen a piano too, so we got 5 piano guys here. So you studied at Harvard, and you met this guy named Steve Piha, and Steve wrote this article about your early years, I guess, and the formative years, and starting out just after college. So you got right into music education and software design. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Coming out of college, we worked together on a lot of music tech projects. This was in the 80s, and actually our first big project was the Finale, the music notation software that's kind of the standard.
Oh, wow, nice.
We worked on the original version of that. I actually did the first commercial project in Finale. And we wound up working on the K250, the Kurzweil 250,
Yep.
first like serious sampling keyboard, and a lot of those sort of groundbreaking projects that were happening in the 80s. So I had sort of come to this with a classical background, but that pulled me right into coding and software and sort of what was the state of the art in music tech in those days.
Did you find yourself not playing and writing as much during that time, or?
Definitely. That's always the thing. Yeah. There's only 25 hours in a day.
Yeah. Around there. So how long did you kind of ride that wave, you know, save up some money? I'm sure that was part of it. Just kind of, if you guys are rocking at the high level of the software world, at what point did you start to kind of make the switch? Did you ease back into playing over time?
You know, it was a pretty classic story. We wound up starting our own company. We made a bunch of software, and we sold the company and sort of cashed out. And I had this moment of realization that I'd been wanting to do music, and I'd been doing the tech stuff for a long time, which I loved, but I wanted to get back to doing music. So then in the 90s, I hung out my shingle as a composer, really got into music heavily, and I worked as a composer and arranger in the 90s. Did film scores, and I was living in Seattle at the time, so I was doing like that whole indie thing, doing theater music, short films.
Indie, never heard of it. No, sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that was sort of my compositional background, was film scoring.
Okay, so now you're performing coffee houses, venues all over the place. Sometimes they bring in guests, vocalists and everything. And I'd like to add here, when I was listening to this tune that we just played, I was hearing other instruments. I was hearing like kind of a jazz fusion type of drum beat going on, you know, wandering bass on top of what you're playing. Do you hear that stuff too, or do you just like to focus on the keys and that's it?
No, I hear that stuff too. One thing I do, I really am kind of probably an old school arranger. And I come from that kind of background, so I love taking my stuff and doing it either for solo piano, or I did some recording this summer for full orchestra. And so there's no specific instrumentation that I work with. This sort of like expanded piano palette with processing is sort of where I've been this summer, and the tracks I've been releasing this summer have kind of been in that.
Okay, so I watched a bunch of videos. I didn't hear any of the songs with other instruments in it. Is that your plan, is to create an album like that where you expand out the songs that you've written?
Yeah, definitely. This summer I recorded 2 EPs. One's with piano and cello, and then I recorded some tracks with full orchestra. So I'm hoping I'll be rolling those out over the winter. And then in November, I'm going into the studio with a singer, and I'm hoping to find a percussionist and maybe some other instruments to work with too.
Awesome. So I often pontificate to small gatherings about the connection between music and mathematics. I think there's quotes that go all the way back to Pythagoras on this stuff, and Einstein later. There's this quote, there's this line in your buddy Steve's Medium article. I just want to read it. So, teaching mathematics endows a student with an enriching skill. Teaching media arts endows a student with a skill set, allowing that young person to interpret the world more perceptively and to practice better self-defense against media manipulation. I just love that. I love that, man. I'd like any thoughts just on that connection.
Oh yeah, I really, really strongly believe that. I just think that art is so much more than entertainment. Art is how we relate to each other. Art is how we relate to the world. And having a strong artistic voice, whether that is as a fan or as a person who performs other people's music or as you write your own, whatever it is, it just makes you able to interact with the world in a much stronger way.
Absolutely.
It's so much more important than just entertainment.
Yeah, I just like the thing about opening your mind to different perceptions. So, you know, not living like a rigid a straight line in your life, and just open your eyes sometimes. But all right, so website, I want to call this out, benhippen.com, benhippen.com. What's your Twitter and social handles, man?
I'm at Ben Hippen on everything. I also have an open page on Facebook, Ben Hippen Music. And we just launched a Facebook page for our new act called Eggin and Hippen. That's EGGEN and Hippen. And I'm pretty much the only Ben Hippen that I know that's active under that name as a musician. So type that in, you'll find me.
All right. It's a pleasure chatting with you, man. We'd love to have you come back.
I'd love to be back. Thanks.